Welcome. You're tuned into Tangled Threads. If you're digging our content, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. I'm a man of principle. For the longest time, I've seen things and let them slide. The world isn't perfect, and I've seen its imperfections up close. From the battlefields of Afghanistan to the war-torn streets of this city, I've seen the best and worst of humanity. I settled into this neighborhood after my retirement from the U.S. Army. Having given the best years of my life to my country, I felt it was now time to serve my community. I established a charity dedicated to helping troubled youths. Each of them has a story, a reason they've gone astray. I believe in giving them a second chance. But these guys, these young thugs who've made it their mission to terrorize our streets and yards, their actions go beyond mischief and cross into terror. I've seen it all from them. The petty thefts, the brazen confrontations, the trash littering my yard. I've approached them politely before, offering a hand of understanding, hoping they'd come around. But today was different. As I sipped my coffee on the porch, I witnessed a scene that made my blood boil. They kicked over Mrs. Peterson's trash can, the frail 70-year-old widow who lives next door. She's done nothing to deserve this. The screams of kids playing in the adjacent yard echoed in my ears as the group jeered and scared them off. Enough is enough. I stood up, feeling every ache and scar from years past, but fueled by righteous indignation. "Hey!" I shouted, drawing their attention. Our eyes locked. "Your little reign of bullying and terror is over. Find a new place to pull your stunts or go to hell. The choice is yours." Laughter erupted among the group, mocking and derisive. "Who do you think you're talking to, old man?" the leader sneered. They continued their path, leaving me behind. But I wasn't done yet. Powered by an adrenaline surge, I closed the distance and gripped the leader's arm, staring into his eyes. It was a look I hadn't given someone in years. The same intense gaze I gave a man we captured in Afghanistan moments after he took my comrade's life, which was only a few moments before I took his. The weight of that moment hung heavy between us. "Remember this look," I whispered, feeling the heat of anger and memories long buried. "If you come back, if you harm anyone in this neighborhood, I will be waiting." For a split second I saw fear, true fear, in his eyes, but he shrugged it off, wrenching his arm free. "You'll regret this," he hissed, rallying his group. As they walked away, I realized I might have just escalated things beyond repair. But if it comes down to it, if they decide to make this a war, I'm ready. My hope had always been for peace, for understanding. But there are moments, crossroads, where you have to choose your battles. And this is a battle I'm willing to fight. So as I pen this down on Reddit, know that I'm preparing for whatever comes next. If I don't make it out alive, remember this. I did everything in my power to prevent it from coming to this. But sometimes, to protect those we love and care for, we have to face the storm head on. Here are a few responses that he received. Number 1. "Man, reading your post gave me chills. Thank you for standing up to those punks. Not many people have the courage to confront such situations head on. While I worry for your safety, I can't help but admire your bravery. If there's any way the community can help, let us know. Perhaps we can organize a neighborhood watch or something? No one should feel alone in this battle." Number 2. "Dude, seriously? Trying to out-macho street thugs? You know they don't play fair, right? You're in their world now. You can't fight fire with fire, all you're gonna get is burned. It's one thing to have a stare down in a war zone, but these streets are different. I get wanting to defend your neighborhood, but the better move would have been to call the cops or something. Risking a confrontation like that, especially when you're clearly outnumbered, man, that's just asking for trouble." Number 3. "Wow, that's an intense experience, OP. I've seen firsthand what unchecked bullying can do to a community. It's a slow rot that erodes trust, safety, and the fabric of the neighborhood. While I'm not sure confronting them was the safest option, I understand the need to take a stand. Please be careful. Maybe work with local youth centers to provide more guidance and outlets for these young men. Often they're just looking for a purpose." Number 4. "Reminds me of the old guardians of neighborhoods from way back when. Vigilante justice, protectors of their streets against unruly elements. Your story is as old as time, a conflict between those who want order and those who sow chaos. Kudos to you for standing up. But remember, history has shown that these conflicts can escalate quickly. It might be worth considering a more diplomatic approach next time, or at the very least having some backup. Stay safe, warrior." Here is his first update. There's a quiet dread that settles over a man when he's targeted. You become hyper-aware of every sound, every footstep, every shadow. 2 a.m. The time a soldier's senses are dulled, seeking rest after a long day. I had just closed my eyes when a barrage of bullets rained down on my home. They had come. Instinctively, I dove to the ground, praying the walls would shield me from their lethal message. Miraculously, when the cacophony ended, I was unharmed. Panic surged through me, not for my safety, but for my neighbors. Mrs. Peterson, that frail, elderly widow. The family across the street, their children's laughter still fresh in my mind. My first instinct wasn't anger, it was concern. Emerging from my battered home, I found my neighbors terrified, but thankfully unscathed. The weight of that night was too much for some. Several packed up and left. But Mrs. Peterson, with nowhere else to turn, and the family across the street remained, holding on to hope that the storm would pass. The police? Disinterested. They took my statement, but offered little assurance that these criminals would be brought to justice. It was a gut punch, feeling abandoned by the very institution meant to protect. Being in the police force is apparently a different world than being in the army. A tense peace prevailed for a few days. No sign of the thugs. Maybe they had been detained elsewhere, or perhaps they'd moved on to a different turf. Yet this peace felt temporary, a calm before a storm. I was heading home from a counseling session with troubled youths, a brief stop for gas. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a familiar face, the gang leader, exiting the store with one of his cronies. Their shock was not hidden. To them, I was a ghost, an unexpected survivor of their ruthless act. Our eyes locked, and a silent message passed between us. They shouted, threats echoing, ensuring I understood their intent. That night was an exercise in patience. Lights off, every sound a potential threat, but nothing happened. Dawn broke with an unsettling stillness. A storm was brewing, and I knew it. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about protecting those who can't defend themselves. Mrs. Peterson, the children across the street, they deserve peace. Tonight I expect war, but I am prepared. I am determined. Whatever comes, they'll know I stood my ground. Here are a few more responses that he got. Number 1. Man, this story hits close to home. The fact that the police seem so disinterested is, unfortunately, a reality many of us face in certain parts of the city. It's deeply unsettling when those who are supposed to protect us just don't. Stay strong, OP. Maybe consider rallying the community to have a bigger voice and putting pressure on the local PD to take action. Together, you guys can be a force. And remember, there's power in numbers. Maybe a community watch could be established to deter these thugs? Number 2, your courage and dedication to the community are commendable, OP. It's heartbreaking to read about your encounters, especially when those that are supposed to be the bastions of law and order let you down. Please be cautious, and I'm sending all my positive thoughts and prayers your way. I hope that tonight is peaceful, and that these thugs find it within themselves to change. But until then, stay safe and alert. Here is his final update. It's been a rough week, to say the least, but I believe our neighborhood has finally found a semblance of peace. After the previous incident, I realized that the key advantage I held was my military training. I needed to create a tactical plan that would give me the upper hand, especially since they had the advantage in numbers. I set up bright lights at strategic points in my yard. One set was angled to catch them as they drove in, effectively blinding their approach. The second set was directed right from my yard, prepared for the moment they'd inevitably try to confront me head-on. As darkness enveloped the neighborhood, they came, hungry for revenge. As anticipated, the angle lights kicked into action as they sped towards my home, making them swerve and falter. Their vehicle came to a halt on my lawn, and the thugs began their threatening advance, weapons drawn. This was it. Flipping on the main yard lights, my yard and the street were illuminated like daylight, which only seemed to further incite their rage. They immediately responded with a hail of bullets. What they didn't anticipate was my positioning. Thinking I was cowering inside, they attempted to enter my home. As they neared the porch, I emerged from my side position, my pistol aimed and ready. I would be firing to the north since the next 2 houses north of me were now empty since the first incident. 3 shots fired, 2 finding their marks, both at the kneecaps. The agonized screams of the injured thugs filled the night as their cohorts rushed into my house. Seizing the moment, I hurled 2 cans of clear-out gas into the house. The disorienting fog of gas, coupled with the sudden darkness as I cut the power, left them stumbling and blinded. Emerging from the darkened doorway, I commanded them to lay down their weapons and surrender. All complied except their leader, his determination fueled by blind rage. Spraying bullets aimlessly in my direction to the south, some struck Mrs. Peterson's home behind me. A surge of relief washed over me, remembering that I had advised her to take refuge with the family across the street. No one was harmed. The leader, his ammunition spent, seemed to think sheer will would carry the day. Using my training, I overpowered him quickly, dropping him with 2 solid punches to the face. I then took out his knees with the bottom of my boots. Then I sat down and waited, keeping my gun in my hand and my eyes on the thugs. As the sirens grew louder, the police arrived to find a scene they surely didn't expect. While I was taken into custody alongside the thugs, my stay was brief. After gathering statements from all involved, it became clear that my actions were in self-defense. I was released the next day. Returning home, I was met with gratitude from my neighbors. Children cheered, parents expressed their thanks, and Mrs. Peterson, tears in her eyes, gave me a heartfelt hug. Though the memories of this night will forever be etched in our minds, there's hope in believing our streets are a little safer. My hope is that this serves as a final chapter to our ordeal. To any who find themselves facing such challenges, remember that violence sucks. It should be used as a last resort, but sometimes it is necessary. So prepare for the worst and always hope for the best. Peace to all. Well, dang. I have to say, this seems like a script straight from Hollywood, but perhaps it all went down this way. Either way, I have to agree that we need to be prepared to defend ourselves and others around us if push does in fact come to shove. I have to be honest, I had to look up clear out gas to see what it was. At least I learned something today. Assuming this all to be true, what are your thoughts? Did he do the right thing by taking this matter into his own hands? Should he have just called the police again? Or did he do the right thing by firing some shots of his own? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.